Welcome everyone, this is Falling Up 90, and today we've got a locomotive comparison. To give you an understanding, the front locomotive is an Athearn Roundhouse, while the rear is the Athearn Genesis line. These are both Jeep 38-2s, they're also of recent releases, so while they may be pretty much the same locomotive overall, the two different lines are going to be the differences in the quality of the locomotive that you receive. The locomotive in the front here, this is the Roundhouse version. This one's geared more towards the beginner. It's featured more in starter sets. It's a great engine to start off with, perfectly fine. But for those who want more detail, like more authenticity, you're going to want the Genesis version. So you're paying more for the Genesis version, but with that, you're getting a higher quality locomotive aesthetically. When looking at the Roundhouse version of the Jeep 38-2, you're going to have a locomotive that's just more plain. Starting off with the footplate, it's not there, not even ruggedized. You do not have any MU hoses. There's no windshield wipers on the windows whatsoever. So it has a much more plain finish to it. If also you would look at the cab, there's nothing on the inside but wires. You do not have an overhead roof right here, so there's less to it, but this is also cutting the cost, so hence why this locomotive is a lot cheaper than what you would see on the Genesis. Now for the bigger appliances, both locomotives pretty much have the same kind of detail, but it's how it's presented. The exhaust here, it's present, but it doesn't actually go through. There's no hole, it's just covered up right here. Even the fan grills, they look nice, but there's no fan. You can't really see anything inside them. They're a little bit too thick. So little amenities like that is also a little bit different. On the underside, starting with the trucks that are well appropriate in detail. The paint's crisp. Still fairly plain though. There's not really a whole lot going on the underside. There is a little bit of tiny lettering, obviously visible. But overall, it's not very highly detailed. Still very acceptable, and this is a perfectly fine locomotive. And to reiterate, inside there's wires and not really a whole lot going on there for detail. The window's not even open. This is kind of what one would expect from a Roundhouse locomotive. So overall, when you purchase a Roundhouse Athearn locomotive, what you're going to expect is a locomotive, while it looks presentably well, is just pretty much going to be plain. So this locomotive is a perfectly fine beginner's locomotive. Mechanically, it's excellent. Haven't had any issues with it. So overall, this is a great locomotive for the price, and it's definitely recommended if you're starting out there. The Genesis version of the Jeep 38-2 is a little bit more upscale. For beginners, you have a ruggedized footplate, as well as having all the MU hoses. So overall, in the beginning, you already see a little bit more detail. Once again, you're going to be seeing some exhaust and some fans as well, but this is presented in a more detailed version. For one, the exhaust actually has holes going through the body, so that gives it a more authentic touch. And then you also have the grills are much more transparent, and you actually see the fans right there inside. So that definitely gives you a lot more appeal to the locomotive. Trucks are about the same, but all around it has a little bit more detail. There's more fine print lettering, which is actually legible if you have a magnifying glass. You have more detail, adding on to the emergency push all the way to the gauge on how much is left in the tank. So there's definitely more added to it. So this is what makes it more to the real locomotive. As for the cab on top, you're going to see the antenna, then followed by the windshield wipers on the front. On the side windows, they actually do open. And you're going to find yourself a cab. And this is the way the Jeep 38-2 cab would be like in real life. So this is one of the signatures of the Genesis line, is you're going to have this kind of detail, having a cab. One major notice on the locomotives, the Genesis one here, for example, so this is the underside, obviously. Has a more smooth finish to it. You have a screw right there. To remove the couplers to what you want, obviously you just take out the coupler pockets and they're good to go. The Roundhouse version, on the other hand, you have to have 4 screws taken out. You also have these. I'm not exactly sure what these are on the tank, but they're present. And to remove the couplers is a little bit more complicated because it seems you have to actually remove the shell before you can actually get to the screws, because this time the screws are actually on top of the coupler pocket. So this is a little bit more complicated to just change something simple as the couplers. So both these locomotives represent the G38-2 pretty well, although the Genesis definitely takes the hand in this one. The detail on it is more striking, and there's a little bit more appliances. So that's kind of what sums up about this. The Roundhouse version is about $90 to $100 MSRP, while the Genesis, this one's going to be about $145. Both these locomotives are DCC ready, so they don't have the full sound system equipped, so this is what makes them the lower prices. However, when it comes to deciding what locomotive you'd like to take, in fact, what G38-2 you'd like to take, you can't really go wrong with Athearn. They're a trusted brand, they're excellent performance, but when it comes to deciding what detail you want, what more authenticity, it's up to you to decide. It's obviously your wallet that votes, so if you want to pay more for the money, this is what you're going to get, the Genesis. But if you're looking to save back, or maybe you're just starting up, there's nothing wrong with the Roundhouse version, but this is all up for you. Thank you very much for watching.